Good evening and welcome to Center Stage at Meek. We are here at the Carrie P. Meek Center where we will have a discussion with Ginan St. Clair Gorg, and we're going to talk about her book, Perseverance. Her book is detailing her journey with breast cancer. So, Ganan, welcome to Center Stage at Meek.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is our pleasure to have you here. Now, I read your book, and we're just going to go through some excerpts. And, as I was reading your book, it brought back so many memories, and I thought about so many emotions that I had no name for or no explanation for from even when I was a breast cancer, going through my treatment, a patient, right? So let's just jump in and talk a little bit about the book. Again, the book is perseverance. I keep saying perseverance, but it's perseverance because explain that.
Because I was pressing through life. I'm always pressing. I'm trying to persevere, but sometimes it's difficult and I need to keep on going.
So perseverance. All right. So I am going to jump in and I'm going to go straight to it's on page 10 and it's talking about how I was diagnosed is the heading in this section. And it's powerful in the way that you explain it. So you said here, cancer. What? I have cancer? The first time I heard that word was on TV. The information I had about cancer was from commercials on TV. I had learned from TV that cancer was a deadly disease and that people who were diagnosed with it had to undergo chemotherapy. After chemo, they would be in excruciating pain and die. So when I was told that I had this deadly disease, I was paralyzed with fear. Since I have always prayed to God and I wanted to die in my sleep, it was heart wrenching to hear this diagnosis. Meaning what? That you thought, now I'm going to suffer.
Now I'm going to suffer. I'm going to suffer a lot. I'm not going to die in my sleep. I still want to die in my sleep. I had this conversation with my 30-year-old son 2 days ago. And he says, how do you know how you're going to die? I said, I have a pact with God. I want to die easy in my sleep and not wake up. So to me, I felt as though my life in the first couple of pages, I had a beautiful life. And then now I'm faced with the fact that I'm going to be tormented to death. I'm going to have to suffer until I die. So it was paralyzing.
So all of those emotions and thoughts go through you when you get
Yeah.
such a diagnosis. Then you went on to say further down, I didn't want to die. I wanted to live. I wanted to live for my son. I wanted to live for me. I wanted to live because there was so much I wanted to accomplish. To say I was in a state of complete shock would be an understatement. So, what gave you the courage to shift from fear to determination? What was the moment you decided to fight?
My dad. I have a very close relationship with my dad. And my dad was a cancer patient. I was pregnant. I didn't know I was pregnant. I went to see my dad at a hospital because he had throat cancer. And he looked at me and he says, you're pregnant. So my son never got to hear my dad speak. But when I was diagnosed, he says to me, Janan, this disease, you fight it in your head. That's all he had to say. That gave me the strength because I was no longer a body. So it's mind over matter. And even through the chemo and the pain, the chronic pain, sometimes I feel bad. And as we were talking earlier about black and brown people, until recently, they tell you when you go to the doctor and you tell them that you have a pain, because you're black, they think even if you tell them you're on a scale of 10, you're 11, when you read the notes, it sounds very dismissive. So I feel like I had developed a high tolerance for pain.
Mm.
Yeah. So, and it has to do with my mind. I could be sitting here and be in pain, but you're not gonna see it. You're not gonna feel it. And I used to have a saying that uh, my smile is up there and my pain is on my back because you don't have to see it through my face. This is not good. I need to be
Wow.
able to express my pain in my face, not to carry it on my back.
That
We're
is
going to therapy.
powerful. Yes, that's therapy. So I mean, I love that what your dad told you though, that this is the type of disease that you fight in your mind, in your head,
Yes.
not
It's
physically.
just it's
Yeah,
not a
just go
physical
through the
disease. Through
process.
the process.
All right. So still talking about the diagnosis, I'm gonna read an excerpt. We talked about it a little, and it was powerful because I think, well, let me read it. So with horror, I remember that a few months prior to my diagnosis, a friend shared with me that she was a breast cancer survivor. I showed her no compassion. I looked her up and down as if she had told me that last week she had a headache. I was ashamed of myself. I did not show any pity or compassion. Now I was in her shoes. I had breast cancer. Without any hesitation, I made the painful decision to call her first. I apologized and told her that I finally understood how she was feeling. How did this experience change your understanding of empathy and the importance of compassion for others?
When I was pregnant, my mother says to me, "Now that you're gonna be a mother, you have to be patient." I never felt as though I wasn't a patient person. And one of my saying is in French, "Il faut donner du temps au temps." You have to give time to time. After this, I became less reactive. Oftentimes people do something or say, I feel myself or I found myself being sometimes a little stoic because people will tell you things. So, how do you react? And your reaction will define how they feel that day or how you will feel later on when you have to call and apologize for being practically an asshole, because somebody's telling you that they have breast cancer is not a headache. And oftentimes when you see somebody on the street and then you see them walking, you don't know what they're going through. And I remember once I had gone to Cleveland Clinic for my second diagnosis. Miss Elisa said that how you make people feel. After the doctor had told me that I have 4 months to live, I decided to go to a restaurant so I could just take all that in. And it's so funny how I felt that the server could just relate to me. It was near the hospital. I wasn't just a client. It feels as if she could see through me. So that kind of empathy, I want to be the type of person who could share that with others. I want to be the person that when somebody comes at me and starts screaming, I want to do this, I want to do that, and I could just patiently tell myself that I don't know what this person is going through. This is not about me.
So, talking about isolation and stigma, the stigma that comes along with it, you said most of the time the process happened in the middle of a regular work week. Talking about going to, in this section, you were talking about going to therapy, going to your doctor's appointments, following up on the things that you need to do. For instance, I know I often have to go do blood work before I go see my oncologist and such. So you said most of the time the process happened in the middle of a week, a regular work week, and thank God I did not have to go to the grocery store, pick up my kids, or go to soccer games. Soon it became a normal cycle and the activities were repeated because I think at this point your son was with your family and you were in Boston, right? So then the worst part was when my hair started to fall off. I somewhat isolated myself because I did not want to be around people. I did not want to see the pity in their eyes. I did not want to answer endless questions about what was happening to me. I did not want to see nor hear close friends decide that it was too painful for them to see me suffer. So they say. I definitely did not want to see cold hearted people start gossiping about how I looked like death. How did you navigate isolation during your journey? And what message do you have for those supporting loved ones through illness?
Or any kind of illness, as a matter
Any
of
kind.
fact.
Yeah.
I did not. I really isolated myself. I stayed home. And now that we could talk about it, my son says that he would wake up and he will feel as though he had gone to school, come back, and I was in the same place. Like I didn't even get up and go pee. Isolation and solitudes, I think, are two different things. I chose isolation. I could call my mom, I could call my sister, I could call a friend, but then, like I said, you have to go to the same questions. When you tell somebody, well, I can't see the doctor now because I don't have insurance, and they ask you that question, and still without compassion, how could you not have insurance? Oh, there's a lot of people who do not have insurance, you know? And then, didn't you do this? Didn't you do that? I think I'm a resourceful person. The answer that I'm waiting for is for them to lend me an ear, not to questions everything and for me to have to go to, yes, I did that. Yes, I did that. And I'm like, why why am I telling you something and then for you to ask me so many questions? Because my telling you is about sharing. Because most of the time you probably don't have the resource. All I want you to do is just listen. I think that helped me be a better listener.
Oh, great. So, one of the survivors that we spoke with earlier said sometimes you just need a hug, not an interrogation.
Interrogation.
And sometimes people don't think past what you're telling them and what you need. You know, asking for advice. You're not asking them to help you solve anything. You're just looking for a hug at that moment sometimes,
That's
right? So, talking again about body changes, you said, for most people, the decision to have a mastectomy is a difficult one. This is especially true for women who are told that it is their decision whether to do one, both or none at all. It is a decision that one has to make pretty quickly, and that is in itself what makes it even more overwhelming. I am not sure how many women think like me, as I could not wait to have both of mine removed. I wanted to avoid keeping any trace of cancer inside of my body. My expectations were realistic, and they still are. What emotional process did you go through in reclaiming your body after surgery? And what advice would you give other women facing similar choices?
I would say do you. Usually I tell people if you find or if you feel something that is abnormal, you remove it. So I was only 33, so they gave me a lumpectomy because they were trying to save the breast, and that's 20 years ago. So the technology were not the same. After the lumpectomy, so imagine you go to the biopsy, to the lumpectomy, and they say, well, we have to do a mastectomy, and I did it. So now I'm left with one breast. I decided to remove the second breast prophylactically because I felt unbalanced. You have to find your balance. It is only about you. Oftentimes, I hear women say, well, my husband will not love me anymore without my breasts. But we find out that there's people that their husband love them more, or they feel more love from their husband than that. It's really about you. It's really about your comfort. But then when I was 33 and I did tell the doctor to remove both breasts, what I thought about, and this is a Bible verse, it says, the Lord has given and the Lord will take. So I grew up, I was born with no breasts. I enjoyed for years a double D. Now, if I have no breasts, the heck?
Doesn't
that
change
was
you
that
as a
was
person.
that was the feeling that I have uh 20 years ago, and that's still the feeling that I have now. And I'm hoping that if anybody wants to love me, it will be more for anything else but my breast, because my son is grown and I can't help
Mhm.
him there.
Mhm.
So yes, and that's the reason why it dawned on me that cancer could help you build confidence, because you will do things that you never wanted to do before. It's the same with the
Right.
wig. They offered me a wig, and I'm like, no, it's just too hot in Florida for me to wear one. But that's me.
Right.
But the ironic thing is, before I had breast cancer, I've always wanted to wear wigs because I'm a theater girl. I like theater, and every time I wear a different wig, I look different. So I still do love wig, but I don't want to feel like it's an obligation because I don't want to walk around with my head shaved. I feel
Right.
beautiful with my head shaved.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, again, I think what you're expressing is that it's a personal journey, and you, like you said earlier, do you. Do not feel pressured to do what society thinks that you should be doing. How do you feel most comfortable? And that's important. So, on survivorship and emotional wellness, being a survivor is truly something special that only those of us who have been through it understand. Anyone who goes through breast cancer, even those who live with metastasis, wants to be known and be counted. I think the most important thing to do is for people to start discussing the emotional side of breast cancer before they ever take the first dose of chemotherapy. It does not matter if you consider yourself active, weak, mentally healthy, or whatever. Ba- um, I'm sorry, battling breast cancer is challenging and emotionally draining. We have been told since our diagnosis that we need to be healthy to go through it. But what does being healthy mean? Is it physical, mental, and emotional? All three aspects need to be healthy. Cancer is a long and hard battle, a battle to be physically, mentally, and emotionally fit in order to get better and stay alive. At first, everything you know about yourself changes. You have to adjust yourself, not only for yourself, but for your loved ones also, right? The reality is the people around you who are there to support you are going through it with you. They might not have cancer, but they have cancer. They have cancer through you, just like you. They are physically, mentally, and emotionally drained. Your husband, your children, your mother, your best friend, and even your neighbors were diagnosed with breast cancer when you were. Expect that they did not physically go through the process, nor did they get the support needed. So, accept that. So, what role has emotional wellness played in your long term survivorship? How did you continue to nurture your mind and spirit? And then maybe go a little bit more on what was your responsibility in those people that you talked about here, your family, your neighbors, your children, you
My
know,
friends,
through the
my
process?
my friends and my members. Um, I went through a period where I felt like I didn't want to take a contract, because if somebody were to give me a contract, the first thing that they're gonna think about is like, maybe she's not gonna be able to complete it because she's gonna die.
Mm.
So it's also
Mm.
part of their journey. One of the things that I would say, and when I talk about uh, seeking for holistic treatment, the holistic treatment means that you go to the doctors, you get the treatment, but you do other things that helps you. I regretted not going to the beach earlier in life. So if going to the beach is what gives me peace, this is what's gonna be done, and it's gonna be part of my schedule regardless. Take time to tell the people that you love them, however you do it. If my son calls me and he says he wants to have lunch, I don't postpone that. I have two nieces that I love very much, and they are here. Their mothers are not here. If they want to go to a party that's going to end at 11 o'clock, I am there because this could be the last time that they get to spend with me. And they worry. They worry whether or not that I have the strength to go through a concert for like 4 hours while they're standing up. So it's a family thing. It's the whole village gets to feel it. Everybody's dealing with it, with you, with it. And communication is important, and setting up boundaries is also important. When I say no, it's no. When I say I can't, I can't. When I don't want to pick up the phone because I feel like emotionally this person is going to drain me and put me in a mental stress, or maybe give me cancer again. So, no, not really, but still, you have to do you and make sure that you go baby step into it.
I feel that. I feel that. And, reading that in your book put another perspective. And I feel like I've thought about and gone through the emotional, journey and thought about how do I take care of myself and all of that. But when you wrote that all of the people that you love got diagnosed when you got diagnosed, they just didn't have to go through the treatment like you did. It put it in perspective for me in the sense that they're suffering too.
Yes, they are co-vivors.
Wow,
They are
co-vivors.
co-vivors.
I like that.
And that footprint is in their mind. Until this day, 20 years later, from the time that I was diagnosed, my mom made it a point never to tell me when somebody dies. And until this day, she cannot come up and tell me, such and such person that sometimes I find out before. And because she's feeling that if she tells me that it's gonna take me back to my journey, because what am I gonna feel? Okay, oh, somebody else died. How come I didn't die? Why all those people who do not have cancer have died, and then I'm not dying? She just doesn't have
it changes
to have that
the other people too.
It changes the way she addresses me when somebody is dead. And some people don't feel it, but I feel it. I'm that sensitive to it.
On page 47, you said, when you are surviving breast cancer, you have to pay attention to your personal life. I wanted to be happy for the rest of my life, and I did all I could to make it happen. How do you redefine your purpose and passion after surviving cancer?
Ah, that was a very tough one. It was a very tough one because for years I felt like I was in a race. It's like every day I wake up, I'm like, oh, I'm not dead yet. Okay, so we're gonna go for another day, another month. Oh, I thought I would have been dead by then. And then I see myself going to 5 years, to 10 years, 15 years, and 20 years I'm there. So it's still a shock every time I wake up. And I learned to live in gratitude, to understand that this day that I have to make the best of it. And I should be ashamed for not doing the best that I can today, showing up for people that I care about, showing up, period, showing up for my health, showing up for my life, my community.
Powerful. So, on the power of love, page 57, my other definition of happiness is love. Love of a partner, love of family, love of friends, love of my son, and love of self. You want on to say, I want him to know that no matter his age, I am and will always be in love with him. How does love for family, for God, and for oneself help sustain healing and resilience?
To me, it's paying attention to the little things, the things that make people happy. I will bring you a gift when it's not your birthday because I'm thinking of you, because I want to share that special moment with you. It doesn't have to be big. It just have to be coming from my heart. Sincerity, honesty, sometimes boldness. I'll tell you. One of my best friend who was supposed to be here, she says, I hate when you say, well, I'm gonna tell you this. And I'm telling you out of love.
Yes.
Because I feel like this is just my chance. I'm her big sister to tell her how I feel and what my expectations are. I don't shy away from telling people what I expect of them.
So, on legacy and reflection, page 63 in your book, you said, if you know you were going to die 1 year from today, what would you do and how would you want to be remembered? Thinking about our deaths forces us to zero in on what is important in our lives and what is just frivolous and distracting. How has your understanding of legacy changed, and what message do you hope this book leaves behind?
I like to say do what's important, but not what's urgent. So I'm not gonna urgently die. The legacy that I always want to live is a legacy of peace. Uh, Peace within you, peace within your family, peace within your surrounding. Oftentimes we meet people and we have to struggle with their temperament, their ways, and how we want to accept as normal from them. But how do you bring that peace to your life? I know that you show up late. How do I bring that peace? I know that when she comes, she's loud. How do I bring that peace? I know that when he comes in here, he wants to argue. How do I find my peace? So, the legacy that I want to leave and what I want people to feel when they read that book is that you could find your peace, and in finding your peace, you could create your own paradise.
I love that. So, having said that, I was actually going to ask you about your book, and this is going to be our last discussion point. When someone reads your book, Perseverance, what would you like for them to walk away, or when they close that last page in your book, what is it that you wanted them to walk away with or to keep with them from reading your book?
Whatever the struggles, high and lows of life, you need to persevere. You have a chance for you to come out the way you want to show up, victorious or defeated. It doesn't matter. Sometimes I feel like this book is not written about cancer. Whether you have AIDS, whether you have diabetes, anything that you're struggling with, you could come out of it victorious. Have faith, persevere until you find that peace, until you find that paradise that you want to create. You could. You can.
Yes,
You should.
can. Well, it was a pleasure for me to read your book. This book, guys, it's a very easy read. I read it like in, I think, over a 2 day period, and I enjoyed every word. I felt like I could relate to much of what you spoke about. And I definitely feel like it is not a book only about your journey with breast cancer. It just has so many life nuggets in there. And through your experience, you've been able to eloquently express to the reader how they can perceive or understand those emotions that we go through when we're facing such a life changing event like breast cancer, but any event in life. There are just nuggets in here that I think people can go back to and use for different challenges that we have. So I want to say thank you for the gift of your book.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you everyone for tuning in to Center Stage at Meek. We are here at the Carrie P. Meek Center right here in Liberty City. I am your host, Dr. Chimene Garrison, and it was a pleasure to sit with Janan as we talked about her book. Thank you.
Thank you.